Let's get started. We are going to tour 4 gardens, each having a water conservation focus and all located in the state of Utah. Our first garden is the beautiful Conservation Garden Park, which is located in West Jordan, up in the northern part of the state.
Over the past few years, the Conservation Garden Park team has been working on a new series of exhibits designed to help homeowners understand and implement the lessons they've learned in the gardens classes. Join us on a tour of these new spaces and see how Conservation Garden Park is helping its visitors achieve real conservation.
We're at the pollinator exhibit at the garden. It's an exhibit that we've been working on for the last year. The idea behind the exhibit is to show how to have a pollinator-friendly landscape in your residential landscape. It was installed using a matrix-style planting design that uses about 50 to 60% ornamental grasses and the rest perennial flowers for the pollinators. One of the things that we get asked a lot here at the garden is about recirculating water features and how much water they use. There's really no data on how much water they use, so we decided to try it out ourselves. So we installed a drilled rock fountain and metered it to see how much water it would actually use, and it surprised us how little water it used. Through the summer, it was only using about 65 to 70 gallons a month, which is actually very little water, especially compared to what the rest of the landscape uses. Part of the pollinator exhibit is example paths that people can look at and try to decide what they want in their own localscape. Paths are a great way to get from one place to another in a localscape, and they also reduce maintenance at the same time. The centerpiece of the new garden expansion is the Localscapes exhibit. The Localscapes exhibit was designed to replicate a quarter-acre residential landscape, including a front yard, a backyard, and in the middle is a large pavilion that replicates the house. The idea behind this landscape was to take away some of the scale issues or interpretive issues that we had in the past with the older parts of the garden. While people loved the older parts of the garden, they had a hard time figuring out how to take what they saw here at the garden and put it into their own landscape. The first element of a localscape and the defining feature of a localscape is the central open shape, which is typically lawn, which you can see behind me. Lawn in this exhibit takes up about 20% of the landscaped area in the front yard. We're not anti-lawn, we just want to show people how to use lawn correctly and in an efficient manner. Step 2 of a localscape are gathering areas. Patios and gazebos and decks have always been popular here in Utah, but we want to make them even more popular by adding more to a landscape. Yet again, people don't know what to do if they don't have lawn in areas. Gathering areas are a great option to replace lawn and actually make it so you want to spend more time in your landscape. In the backyard of the Localscapes exhibit, we have a vegetable garden, which is a type of activity zone, which is step 3 of a localscape. Vegetable gardens are really popular here in Utah, and they're a great way for people to use their yard and, believe it or not, save a little bit of water too by removing lawn out of an area, putting in vegetable garden boxes with drip irrigation. Side yards like this one are usually forgotten areas of the landscape. People end up using lawn in this area. They don't really know why they put lawn in this area. They just don't know what else to do. But this actually presents a great opportunity to save water by putting in planting beds, and step 4 of a localscape, a pathway like this. Step 5 is planting beds. It's usually the first thing that people think about when they're thinking about their landscape, but it's actually the last element of a well-designed localscape. When designed and installed correctly, planting beds can be really low maintenance when installed with mulch and drip irrigation. We're now inside the Localscapes house. It acts as the centerpiece of the exhibit, but also an outdoor classroom where we can teach homeowners the Localscapes concepts while they experience the exhibit in real life. If someone's not ready to take on a full Localscapes project, a great place for them to start is a park strip. And we've created a park strip exhibit to show 8 different styles of park strips that they can recreate in their own landscape. For each park strip that we have a downloadable park strip design that they can print off and use in their own landscape.
Conservation Garden Park's new exhibits showcase practical projects that solve landscaping challenges for homeowners, while also benefiting the environment and producing measurable conservation. To help bridge the remaining gaps between idea and implementation, we've tied these exhibits to programs that bring the expertise of our staff to the real-world landscapes of homeowners through the Flicker Strip and Localscapes reward programs on UtahWaterSavers.com. The combination of these programs, along with our classes and the new garden expansion, have allowed us to work with homeowners to achieve real conservation like never before.
Up next, we're dropping roughly 1,600 feet in elevation and transitioning from planting zones 5 and 6 to planting zone 8 as we enter southern Utah and check out the Red Hills Desert Garden in St. George.
Hello, I'm Ryan White, Red Hills Desert Garden Manager. I wish we were doing this tour in person, but this video should give you a taste of what Red Hills Desert Garden has to offer. Red Hills Desert Garden opened in spring of 2015 and has quickly become a popular destination for Washington County residents and tourists alike. The garden is located on the bluff north of historic St. George, known as the Red Hill, and is adjacent to Pioneer Park and the Red Cliffs Desert Reserve. This prominent location has helped us to attract a wide range of visitors and spread our conservation message. As the first desert conservation garden in Utah, Red Hills Desert Garden features plants that have evolved under some of the most extreme conditions. The garden sits on just over 4 acres and has over 5,000 plants and 250 individual species. The garden is a partnership between the Washington County Water Conservancy District, the City of St. George, and the Virgin River Program. As with other conservation gardens in Utah, Red Hills Desert Garden is setting a new standard for landscaping in our area that is responsive to the needs of a growing population while being resilient to the erratic and unpredictable patterns of drought and climate change. Washington County's climate is what I describe as a transitional zone. Though we get nearly as hot as Las Vegas during the summer, we also get much colder than them in the winter. Finding plant species that can withstand freezing temperatures from 10 to 15 degrees all the way to 115 degrees is a challenge. Though we are typically a hardiness Zone 8, most winters now are closer to those of Zone 9. But 7 years ago, before the garden was planted, we had temperatures down to 0, or Zone 7. Because of this variability, one of the goals of Red Hills Desert Garden is to trial plants that have not traditionally been used in the area. Zone 9 desert trees like Palo Verdes, acacias, and varieties of mesquite have performed well so far, and we are beginning to see their increased usage throughout the community. In this portion of the garden, we have divided the planter beds by family or genus to highlight the variations in texture, size, and color. Springtime in the desert is amazing for flowers. Mid-April to early June is the peak bloom season at the garden. But as triple-digit temperatures arrive in late June, most small perennials go dormant and look somewhat ragged. This is when the desert succulents shine. When other plants are hunkering down, cactus, yucca, and agave look as good as ever. A prominent feature of the garden is the stream that winds through the garden from one end to the other. This stream was designed to recreate the habitats found along the Virgin River. The Virgin River watershed is home to 6 native fish species, 2 of which are endangered. The water for the stream comes from the Skyline Pond about a quarter-mile away. This pond is used for irrigation by the city of St. George and is made up of untreated Virgin River water, so it is the same water the fish would be swimming in if they were in the wild. The stream typically flows at 1 CFS, though several times a year the Virgin River program will turn the pumps up to flow at 4 CFS to simulate a flood. Floods are an important part of the life cycle of the fish and are an important signal to them that it's time to swim upstream and reproduce. At the end of the canyon is the fish viewing area. This is not an enclosed aquarium, but rather a view into the stream. As such, the water clarity fluctuates from day to day and closely mimics conditions you would find in the Virgin River itself. The fish you see swimming here are Virgin River chub, one of the endangered species. Most of these are 1 to 2 years old, with the smaller ones being offspring this season. The sculpted slot canyon area recreates microclimates found in southern Utah's canyons, allowing us to showcase more shade-loving plants. But we also like to use the canyon for art displays and events. Parashant National Monument partnered with us to display these raindrops created by elementary students. These colorful bike rims were displayed when the Tour of Utah bicycle race started in front of the garden. And the annual holiday light display always casts a magical glow. Of course, my favorite The annual Scarecrow Walk and Haunted Canyon has grown to become one of St. George's premier fall events. You've probably noticed the scarecrows in some of the other footage. Each year, dozens of businesses, organizations, and private individuals create the scarecrows, while the garden staff creates the Haunted Canyon portion. Over 15,000 visitors attend during the 2.5 weeks that they are displayed. As soon as Halloween comes down, we begin the setup for the holiday lights that are on display from Thanksgiving to New Year's. Though these events do not have overt conservation messages tied to them, they attract families to come back to the garden again and again, creating lasting memories and shifting norms by instilling a deeper appreciation for the beauty of desert landscaping. The red sandstone boulders used throughout the garden came out of the ground during the excavation for the Water District offices east of the garden. It turned out that many of them contained dinosaur tracks from the early Jurassic period. This one is considered a true track, or an impression where a dinosaur once walked. This larger one is a natural cast made from a layer of sediment that covered over a true track. When you separate the layers, it's like taking Play-Doh out of a mold. We can't say for certain what species made each track, but based on the size and time period, it's likely that the large natural casts were made by something like a Dilophosaurus, the dominant predator of the early Jurassic period. These ones are identified as swim tracks. Rather than footprints, you'll notice long claw marks or scrapes made as dinosaurs swam through shallow water, pushing off the bottom. Tracks in the concrete guide you to the more significant finds, but with a careful eye, you'll likely discover more. This tiny track was first noticed about a year ago by a school principal during a field trip. A local paleontologist confirmed that it is indeed a dinosaur track. So next time you're in St. George, I hope you'll make time for Red Hills Desert Garden. If you're visiting during a weekday, let me know when you'll be there, and I'll be happy to give you a personal tour. Otherwise, the garden is open every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. If you have any questions, please send me an email at ryanw@wcwcd.org.
Let's cool down a bit and head back up to the northern part of the state where we're touring Weber Basin's Water Learning Garden in Layton.
Hi, I'm David Rice with Weber Basin Water Conservancy District. We're here at our main administrative facility located in Layton. On this site, we have our main administrative offices, we have our Water Education Research Center, we have one of 3 large water treatment plants, and we have, of course, the Learning Garden. Today, I'll be taking you on a tour of the Learning Garden to show you and hopefully give you a little bit of perspective of what we have here to offer for the public in terms of how they can be effective with low water and water efficient landscaping. First, let me give you a really brief overview. The district, we provide water to about 700,000 people in 5 counties: Davis County, Weber County, Morgan, Summit, and Box Elder County. And with that water, it meets all the demands, including agriculture, commercial, industrial, residential indoor, and residential irrigation water. So with that, what we'll do is we'll take you section by section through the garden, show you some of the displays, and talk about all the various plants and things that we have to offer, with the hopes that you'll come back in person and get the full experience as you can in the future. So now we're here at our ground cover display. This is right in front of our main administrative office, kind of as the entrance to the garden. And this is an area that we wanted just to show small examples of alternatives to lawn in a landscape. So here we've got about 8 different varieties of plants, each of them a little different in characteristic and type and color and interest, but all of them showcasing something that could be on the ground in place of lawn. Now, lawn is an important part of the landscape, and we've got some turf plots I'm going to show you in a minute. But there are alternatives to lawn. They maintain a fairly uniform cover, they're green, many of these even flower, and they use much less water than a traditional Kentucky bluegrass or cool season lawn. So here we are now at our lawn demonstration displays. So I'm standing here with 2, and I'll show you the other 2 in just a minute. But we've got a Shanshare Imperial Blue variety, and we've got a BioTurf Bio Blue variety. Now these are supposed to be low water bluegrass alternatives, but you can tell they have the traditional nice bluegrass appearance. They're a dark green texture or dark green color with a nice soft texture. Both of these are newly installed. Actually, all 4 of our turf plots are newly installed. Next season, we'll be tracking the water use. Each are sub-metered. We'll be tracking that water use and making it available for all visitors to see on our website, or people that are interested to know the different water demands of these types of lawns. This is all done with overhead spray irrigation. And then the 2 other types of lawn that we've got demonstrated here are buffalo grass and dog tough grass. Both of those are warm season varieties of turf, very different in appearance and color, more of a gray-green cast to them more than the traditional dark green, but use significantly less water compared to the Kentucky bluegrass or perennial rye or those other varieties of cool season grasses that are typical to our climate. But I should mention, regardless of what variety you use, we would encourage you to use lawn as a design element in a landscape, not just a default ground cover for the entire landscape. So now, here we are standing right here with our small mulch demonstration. Now, granted, there are many, many colors and textures and varieties of mulches that can be used on the ground. Here we've got 3 varieties of rock mulch colored in different crushed size and different texture, in addition to a few different colors of bark. And the important part with mulches is not necessarily what you use, but that a good mulch layer is applied, 2 to 3 inches is applied, and that mulch layer will help do a couple of things. It'll help reduce evaporation from the soil, helps moderate soil temperatures, and will reduce weed germination and growth rates. So the idea is that you can choose the mulch and texture and color of interest that you love and get the benefits regardless of what's on the surface. It does create a different feel and look depending on the material you choose, but mulches are a very important thing to low water landscapes. So here we are at our irrigation display. Now, irrigation is really the heart of everything we're trying to educate people about with the learning garden and with irrigation in general in a landscape. So all throughout the garden, irrigation is demonstrated, but because some of that's not visible, we've got a small irrigation display here that's interactive. So as users come, they can push a button, and then various types of sprinkler heads will pop up, and they can see the operation of those heads. And because it's on a concrete pad, they can visualize the spray pattern and see how uniform, or see how those water droplets are being distributed. We've also got drip irrigation throughout the garden, and we don't have a formal display for that, but there are areas in the garden where people can visually see the different methods and types of drip irrigation and how they can be used in a landscape setting for both traditional plantings and raised beds for vegetables or other methods. I'm now standing in our front yard demonstration area. This is a very small scale residential front yard. As visitors come, they can use their imagination and think about, here's a house and they're on the street, and you can see the different types of groupings of plants that have been set up here. We've got a small intentionally designed turf area, but in this case we're actually showcasing one example of artificial grass, just as an option to reduce water and to make irrigation a little bit easier. Of course, we don't have to irrigate it. But in this area, we've got lots of different groupings of plants. It's all done with drip irrigation, and we want visitors to be able to take these ideas and translate them into their own yard. So here we are standing in front of what we call our backyard demonstration. And again, using your imagination, you're standing inside the home, looking into the backyard of a small residential landscape. And so once again, hopefully we're illustrating some principles where you can look at the groupings of plants, the types of plants, how they're grouped together. There is seasonal interest, so whenever you come, there should be something in bloom, something of interest, and you can come and take those ideas and apply them back into your own landscape. This yard, we've also done a demonstration of a different type, a different shade of artificial grass. The idea is that you as a consumer can become a little more educated of some of the options. It may not be suitable for everybody, it may not be suitable for every location, but it is another option, a different type, different color, and it does fit very well in a very small space that would be more difficult to irrigate otherwise. So here we are at our very low water demonstration in the garden. We've gone from bark mulch to a gravel mulch, and we've incorporated a lot of different types of plants that can tolerate water much less frequently than some of the other more traditional low water areas. And as we can illustrate here, we've got a cactus area, we've got a succulent area. This area actually happens to be on top of a large concrete water tank coming right out of our treatment plant. So the soils are not deep. There's a few challenges there, but all in all, we can demonstrate a very low water landscape right here, in an area that otherwise wouldn't be used, and we can showcase how you could do this same type of thing in various challenging spots that you may be addressing in your own yard. So this demonstration here is just a very small area with raised beds. And raised beds are primarily used for vegetable gardening. So, it's one area of the garden that's still water-wise, but vegetables need more water to be productive. So what we've done is tried to set up a few examples here of different types of drip irrigation that can be effectively used on raised bed gardens. So as you get into your own landscapes and you don't have a lot of space, you still want vegetable gardens, you don't have to flood irrigate those, spray irrigate them, you can do them very effectively with drip irrigation. So we wanted to demonstrate those things, even though this is a small scale, how you can be effective at home. So here we are now in what we refer to as our localscape demonstration. Now the localscapes is a principle-based concept that helps you as a homeowner be able to apply principles in your landscape that'll make it attractive, functional, and beautiful in addition to water-wise. So we've got a turf area that's designed turf. Its intention is to be small, to showcase that this turf has a usable function. It's a design element in a landscape. We've got pathways, we've got planter beds, and then the parts that we have a difficult showing are the activity zones, although we have a pergola, which could be a gathering space. All the principles are here, minus the toys that you might have in your yard, such as trampoline, swing sets, those kind of things. But if you come to the garden, you can see the different types of planting combinations. You can see, what we've done with irrigation, and you can hopefully visualize and take these principles back and to create a localscape for your yard. It's a landscape that will be suitable for our climate, plants suitable to grow in our soil conditions, and most importantly, watered effectively. Here we are standing at our park strip demonstration. This is just a very small sampling of the few options that could be done in a park strip to make it more water efficient. Now there are many options and all kinds of styles and tastes, but here we've got just a few small sections of different kinds of plants, different groupings that could help you maybe do something like this or something more effective in your park strip than trying to water lawn. They're beautiful. They also take much less water than a traditional lawn park strip would take. On the far west side of the garden is this terraced area. And not every landscape is flat. And so this is a great demonstration area for those that have slopes in their yard that don't know quite what to do. You know, an area that can be terraced. We've tried to theme these areas with different kinds of plants that have different bloom times, different color schemes, both in the foliage and the flower, in addition to a meandering pathway. At the one side of this terraced area, there's also a little dedicated rose garden. So overall, showing people how to deal with the slope is one of the objectives of this area of the garden. So this concludes our garden tour. It's been a brief overview of some of the themed elements, some of the specific demonstrations that we have here in the garden to showcase water efficiency, attractive landscaping, plant selection, and hopefully give you as a viewer an idea of what's here that could be incorporated in your home landscape. So we would encourage and invite you to come and visit the garden. One thing I didn't point out necessarily as we were going through the garden is we've tried to label each of the plants, at least each type of plant, so that as you come, the plant is named. We've got some QR codes that can be scanned, linking over to a plant database that's a work in progress. As you come to the garden now, you'll notice some of the areas are new with various constructions. Some of the areas are new, some of the areas are more mature. But we do encourage you to come. Hope you've enjoyed this tour. We'll look forward to seeing you here in the garden.
Our final destination is the USU Botanical Center located in Kaysville. We are hosting a live Q&A session as part of this virtual event, so don't hesitate to type your questions in the Q&A box and we'll get to those shortly.
Hello, I'm Jerry Goodspeed, Director of the Utah State University Botanical Center, and welcome. We have 100 acres here, and one of our major objectives here is to promote better water usage. Behind me you can see a courtyard with a lot of our natives, plus a lot of plants that we produce. We have a plant introduction program where we try to work with water, bringing them in to the industry and selling them. We have trees, a beautiful arboretum where we also highlight trees that don't require water or require less water, as well as some edible plantings and other things in our garden.
The Botanical Center embodies what Utah State University is, and that is extension or service, instruction, teaching, and research, of course. And many of those who are involved in research can understand the value of having a component like this as part of the land grant system. As far as research goes, the Arboretum is not here just to show people what trees and shrubs they can grow, but it's also here to monitor what kind of development, how they develop properly.
We have an 8-acre arboretum that houses about 400 different trees. And the idea here is to show people the amount of trees that we can grow in the Intermountain area, especially in northern Utah, but throughout the Intermountain area. And the trees are arranged according to water usage. It looks a little bit like a drop of water as it would go into a pond. On the outside edges of the arboretum are those that really don't require any water once they're established. As you move into the center of the arboretum, you will run into trees that maybe we can water once every other week. And where in the middle, it's more of a what we call a moderate water zone, where we will water them once a week, as you would in your landscape.
Just to the west of the Arboretum here is a Utah house, which was built 20 years ago to actually describes a sustainable method for housing and a landscape with it.
So we're here in the edible demonstration garden. This is a fantastic half-acre garden that is focused on edible crops that you can grow in Utah, and we try to grow unusual things, different varieties, things that you may not think are typical to the Utah gardening scene. So we will grow, this year we grew a watermelon that's called a red and gold watermelon with a beautiful yellow exterior and a bright red interior. We've grown cotton, we've grown soybeans, we've grown all kinds of different things in this garden. So this is a wonderful place to come and visit and see what different varieties you can grow. In addition to the vegetables, we also have small fruits. So you can come and you can sample some of the raspberries and blackberries, currants and gooseberries that do well in Utah. And behind the edible garden is an orchard. And that orchard showcases all of the different varieties of grapes, apples, stone fruits like peaches, pears, different kinds of plums that you can grow here in Utah as well. And you're welcome to come and walk through and see these wonderful trees, how they produce the colors and beautiful shapes of the fruit, and even taste a fruit here and there, and make sure that it's something that you want to incorporate in your garden before you actually purchase it. So this is a wonderful place to come and see all of those different varieties and what you can put in your own home garden.
There are people measuring water here at the center. They're planting different turf models. They are doing any number of things that would help develop that mission we talked about here, to fully inform the public of the proper ways to be able to live in a high desert.
One of the new projects that we've been working on here at the Botanical Center is a park strip redesign garden. And you can see it's all around me. We have 8 different designs that you can come and look at and implement in your park strip. So park strips are one of those places in our landscape that really take a lot of water for not a really good use. So we can take out that grass, we can put in beautiful plantings like what you see around me and really reduce the amount of water that we're using. We're comparing each of these designs to see which ones can take the least amount of water, and that's something that's going to be up and coming, and you'll see more information coming out on that research as this project progresses. But we're also comparing it, not just these types of herbaceous plants, but we're comparing it to a thyme ground cover, and a turf-style tall fescue, a cabin mix, and our regular old Kentucky bluegrass. So we're going to be seeing what kind of water savings we can get by replacing those traditional plantings with alternative grasses and some of these really beautiful plants.
We have 8 acres of ponds and wetlands here at the Botanical Center. Most of that water is storm water. Most of the streets in Kaysville and Fruit Heights, all of the runoff comes to our ponds, usually on the north end, some on the south end. We have 4 ponds. The storm water goes through those ponds, and the idea behind it is that we will reduce the nitrate and the other chemical problems that the water has, so that it leaves our property better than when it came onto our property. We also have fish in those ponds. We stock them 3 times a year, and it's just public fishing. Everybody's allowed to come as long as you have your license. Along with the ponds, we also have a wetland discovery center, which is a building where we educate mostly youth, 4th grade and up, on water usage, on stormwater, why it's important, why wetlands are important, and why the ponds are important as well.
Okay, we're here in the Edible Farm Demonstration Garden. This is a newer garden that was added to the USU Botanical Center in the last 2 years. The purpose behind this garden is to show you, if you wanted to convert your backyard to feed your family, how you could do this effectively in a very small space and grow a lot of food. So we use a lot of vertical trellising techniques here in this garden. We also use intensive planting systems, different ways to incorporate more plants in a smaller space. If you are looking at becoming an urban farmer, this is an excellent place to come and get ideas and learn how to use some of these techniques to boost your income and to learn how to grow really good produce in a very small space that is highly valuable. In addition to some of that produce, we also grow cut flowers in this garden. And cut flowers are a booming business in Utah. So we are trialing different flowers, learning how to grow them right alongside our growers so that we can offer great information and so that we can help people learn how to grow this high value crop that is becoming very important in Utah.
We are in one of our high tunnels, high tunnel greenhouse. And this is what we call our hydroponic aquaponic research area. And you've probably heard a lot about hydroponics and aquaponics and wondered if they work, how we do it. Well, that's what this whole facility is here. We grow, you can see the tomatoes that we're growing. These tomatoes are grown without soil. We just water them occasionally. Same thing with the sweet potatoes that are below me. We also have other crops in here that we do some research just to grow and see how they'll do, how we can improve it. We keep track of the cost to figure out if it's affordable to do this. We also have a program of the aquaponics where we have fish. The fish help us with nutrients. Those nutrients get moved from the fish tank to the plants. And so it's kind of a symbiotic relationship where they're trying to help each other. It's not that easy. And so this is us trying to figure out how do we keep fish alive and strawberries alive. And that's part of the research that we do ongoing here, just to try to help people with their own problems, try to figure out and find solutions to aquaponics and hydroponics in this case.
A component that's not necessarily talked about in connection with the Utah State University Botanical Center is the adjacent research farm, which any researcher can then put in a proposal to do research on that land. So it isn't just landscape that's being looked into, although there are plots of ground on the research part of this property that are fully research oriented with regard to landscape, but there's also fruit being studied, vegetable studied, other types of things that have to do with this, with the horticultural field.
So we'd love to have you drop by anytime, take a walk through and enjoy.